So it's been about 2 years now since I got my real estate license, almost 2 years. I just wanted to give you guys a whole rundown on the whole process, on what it was like from getting the license to just every day in the field. So first off, getting the license, I did a 6-week course. It was pretty easy to get the license, especially like if you're freshly new out of college or just into the study mode. The test is not that hard, even though they say like 50% pass, 50% fail. It's not really impossible. And it wasn't all that expensive either. It's probably like $1,500, at least for me in Florida 2 years ago. It may have changed. It was $1,500 to get everything up and running, from paying for the course, the test, paying to get your license, activated and everything, and hung up and ready to go. About $1,500. Now, once you actually get started in real estate, what's it look like and what are you doing? So first couple months on the job, right, actually, let's backtrack. Before I picked a place to work, I was calling out a whole bunch of different brokerages. Really, I was mainly focused more on investing than being a real estate agent at this time. So I was trying to more find an investment firm than a real estate brokerage firm. So I was calling up all these places, and once I got my license, I went and interviewed with all of them, or more, I kind of interviewed them, right? Because I had so many lined up. I had like 10 different ones, and I was trying to find which one I wanted. And after that process, I picked my brokerage and I started off there, and within the first 2 months I really had no idea like what to do or how to get business or like what a regular workday consists of. So I started off by just making like Craigslist ads for rentals, just posting up pictures and just trying to get people's contact information. That really, it didn't work, but then again I wasn't consistent with it. I think I did it for like, I did like 2 posts. Like I did a bunch of posts but only for like 2 days. So that was pretty short-lived. And then, just a lot of like talk. For the first 2 months, there's a lot of talk and like, oh man, this is going to be like this, it's going to be cool, but really like not really doing much. But then after those 2 months, it's still really a huge learning process for me. And that's kind of what I more used it for. So I was learning, okay, how does real estate work? Like, how can you get business? How do you make money with this? And I was doing more of like the direct mail and more of the investing side. Yellow letters and trying to wholesale houses, right? And then I started to kind of move more into a real estate agent once I realized how hard it was to find a wholesale deal, because I figured, well, geez, it's really damn hard to find somebody who wants to sell a house at exceptionally low value compared to what it's worth. Even if it is in need of repairs and tender loving care, it's still really hard to find that, especially in this market right now. So I was like, why don't I just try being a real estate agent for a little bit? Because it's a lot easier to invest in properties when you have money, right? To offer and say, let me buy your property, rather than to just try and wholesale a property. Like, that's pretty tough. So I was like, why don't I just at least start off as a real estate agent as my way to make that process forward, or to make investing happen. Because I figured it'd be a lot easier just to find someone who just wants to sell a house or buy a house, period, than it is to find someone who wants to sell a house for a significantly good deal. So learning about the whole process, and I realized there's really 2 ways that you can make money in real estate. Actually, 3. 3 ways to get business in real estate. Okay, so the first one is referrals. This would be your best case scenario. This is usually how people get their first deal, by somebody that they know. If you have a network of connections of people who you know who are of the age and looking to buy or sell a home, you're in good condition. But for me, as a 19-year-old at the time, and away from my hometown, like, I didn't know anybody. At least if I'm in my hometown, like, I know my parents and my parents' friends, I could ask them. But like, I didn't know any adults here. Only people I knew here were people my age, 19, who are not looking to buy or sell a house. So what do you do when you don't know anyone or have referrals? What do you do when that's not an option? And 2 other things you can do. You can do marketing, or like, direct mail, sending out flyers, sending out postcards, farming. Problem with this is it's very expensive and it takes a long time. It's not like you just send out flyers 1 month and you're good. You gotta keep on sending out flyers and postcards to that neighborhood for like a year until they start to familiarize yourself with that neighborhood. So, and don't get me wrong either, postcards and flyers get very expensive, depending on the size of the neighborhood. But I think it would cost me about like $1,000 to send a postcard to each person in the neighborhood for just 1 month. So, you know, that's like at least $12,000 a year that you're dishing out until you're probably going to get a deal back and recuperate that money. And then the third option is to door knock and cold call. And that's what I did, because money option was not an option for me. At least I could not sustain that kind of funding, and I didn't have the referrals. So my experience with door knocking and cold calling. First, it was very nerve-wracking, really didn't know what to do. But I learned pretty quickly, and wouldn't say I completely got over the fear, but you definitely do learn to diminish the fear to where it's not nearly as anxiety-provoking as it is in the beginning. So I started off actually with door knocking. That was my first introduction to it, then moved on into cold calling. In my opinion, I think door knocking is less intimidating than cold calling, just because people are actually much nicer to you when they see you in person, believe it or not. Like, it's a lot, just think about it over the internet. It's a lot easier for somebody to criticize you when you can't see them back. But when you're face to face, they're not as mean, they're not as hostile towards you. After trying to learn to door knock and cold call, I ended up getting a coach and was role playing an hour a day and door knocking and cold calling. So this is what my schedule looked like as a real estate agent. My goal was to knock on like 250 doors a day, or I tried to get 1,000 doors a week, but I wanted to only work 4 days a week. So it was 250 doors a day. And it transferred over into different shifts, but basically I would prospect for at least 3 hours a day between cold calling and door knocking, and you try to set up and see this is how many calls you want to make, these how many contacts you want to make, this is how many appointments you want to set, so you got to track everything. And I had a coach, and it helped a lot, like it really did help. But yeah, that was my schedule. So getting up at 5:30 every single morning and starting role playing at 8 o'clock. That's what it looks like if you want to at least have somewhat of success or a chance of succeeding in this industry. Because trust me, you don't want to just roll out of bed and immediately get into cold calling. That's why I was getting up at 5:30. Like, you want to get up, get in the gym, have a morning routine, and get your mind right and your mind psyched up, because you need to be in the right frame of mind to cold call and door knock at 8 o'clock in the morning. You don't just wake out of bed ready to do that. So expect early mornings and get a morning routine in place. Alright, so you want to get the cold calling and the door knocking done with early in the morning. That's what the day would look like. And the rest of the afternoon is used for your appointments that you go on. Or if you don't have any appointments, you use it for more door knocking. So usually in the morning, after you finish your morning routine, from about 7:30 to 8 you're role playing, or from 7 to 8, you know, between that hour you're role playing, and 8 o'clock you hit the phones. After the phones, you hit the doors. And then after the doors, if you have appointments, you go on those. If not, you do more prospecting. And I did that for about a year. And I set a few appointments, went on some appointments, had a lot of close calls where like they were almost signed it, you know, very close, very almost promising, you know, getting your hopes up, and then boom, just crashed and burned. And in the long run, I did not end up getting any deals. Now, am I still in real estate? No, I'm not. Here's what happened. So I was just going hard. Like, I'm talking, I didn't take a break for anything. Like, I even had 2 broken wrists. I broke both my wrists playing football. And I was still out there door knocking and cold calling, like I couldn't stop. But then I went home for summer break, because there's like a 2-week period in between school, right? I was doing all this while in school. So I went home for like a little 2-week break period, and it's not in the same area. When you have your license, you can only operate as an agent in this area. You can't operate as an agent in every single area of Florida. You have your own districts. So my district at home, I couldn't work as an agent there. So I had to just relax for those 2 weeks. And in those periods of 2 weeks, it just felt so good. And that once I got back to Orlando and it was time that I could work again, I did not want to. Like, it was just, I just hated it. I felt that disgust, and it took that time for me to sit back and realize that I did not like this, and this isn't something that I wanted to do. It wasn't worth the money for me. I'd rather do something I enjoy and get less money. But that was my experience with it. But honestly, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing or try to deter anybody away from who's interested or thinking about getting their license, because I actually learned a lot from it. I became very confident from it, right? I learned how to overcome a lot of fear from door knocking and cold calling. My communication skills have improved dramatically. I joined Toastmasters and was amazing at it right away. And Toastmasters is where you learn how to do public speaking. And I actually found a new passion where I like to public speak, right? And I never would have found that without Toastmasters. It really just teaches you how to be a master communicator and how to be good at sales. Because I was very good at sales. I did become very good through role playing and learn how to handle all objections. My problem that I would try to push on everybody else, or hope for anyone else who's struggling with, is when you're cold calling. I knew every single response to every single rejection, but here's the problem. You're gonna get rejections. They're gonna start to get hostile. They're gonna start to get an angry attitude, and I did not like pushing when somebody was pissed off, and that's where I fell off from. Where other people, they just couldn't even realize that the person was pissed off or angry, so they just kept on pushing because they didn't even realize. And then they usually get the deal. So I knew what to say, but sometimes I just get too intimidated and back off. But all in all, I mean, if you are thinking about getting a license, I would highly recommend it. Unless you have a better option, do it. It's a great learning experience, and it's not to say that you can't succeed in it. Like, you absolutely can succeed in it. I'm sure if I would have still been working as a real estate agent for this year, I'm sure I would have had a deal by now. It's just not something that I wanted to do. It wasn't worth it for me. But that's kind of what it's like being a real estate agent, starting off on the worst foot that you could, not having any referrals or any money to market. And that's the truth of what prospecting is like. If you guys have any more questions or want to know more about a specific topic that I went over, or maybe a topic that I just forgot to mention or didn't cover, put it down in the comments below and I can make a video on that topic if I have an answer for it or an experience for it. Deuces.
Over there and over there, okay.